Do's and don'ts on approaching people in a wheelchair. Let's first start with naming. How can you call someone? I prefer to be called a person with a disability. The disability is not who I am, but it's part of my lifestyle. Or a wheelchair user. Don't call people handicapped, don't call people less abled, or don't call people disabled. Sometimes you're in a situation that you might have questions, like you wonder what happened to a person, and it's okay to ask, but you have to use your common sense. A don't, big don't, do not come in my personal space. If you're asking something, you can just keep your distance. And now with the COVID pandemic stuff happening, it's easier, people are keeping distance, but normally before it was really a thing that people would just come way too close. I get it that I'm sitting down and I have to look up, but it's okay, you know, the first approach, keep your distance. Okay, do not act like a person in a wheelchair is an infant. Some people have this thing where they assume that people who are using a wheelchair or have a disability, that they also have a mental incapability or they're mentally troubled, and that's mostly not the case. So don't assume that, and my advice would be just act and approach the person in a wheelchair just like any other person. And don't just go touching people. Not on the shoulder, not on their head, not on their wheelchair, not on their legs. Don't touch people if it's not appropriate. I did have experience like this, where a lady or someone would come up to me and, hey, can I ask you something? But they would be sitting down and they would try to lower themselves, so they will sit like here and then look up to me. And I get why they do it, but that's what you do with children, that's what you do with dogs. Some people do that. And it's not okay to talk to me like I'm 3 years old. So if you're in a room and you want to talk with a person in a wheelchair and you prefer to be on eye level, look for a chair and sit on the chair. Just scoop the chair in and sit next to the person. Don't go kneeling, it's weird, and you will never last that long when you're on your knee. Yeah, for me it really depends on the situation. It could happen for a few seconds, but if you're really having a conversation for more than 10 minutes or so, or just take a chair and sit next to the person if you're having a real conversation. So act normal, don't assume, ask normal questions. Instead of asking, do you work? Ask, where do you work? Because you will assume that people are working. You have to treat people in a wheelchair or with a disability, any form, treat them as equal, and you will know when to adapt, but you have to use your common sense. Can you even do sports? That's not a good question. You could rather instead ask, what type of sport or exercise do you do? This morning, I was rolling like in a forest area, like close to nature, and for a moment I was by myself and a person came passing and said, "Oh, you're doing so great." And I was like, what for? For even existing, for being here, for being by myself? Why is that so great? You are by yourself. So I know people mean well, but you have to be careful because it ruined the minutes after that for me, because I was confused and then I had to think, okay, this person is meant well and is clearly not capable of thinking. I think it's not an appropriate reaction. You can just say, "Hey, good day, how are you?" Or "Have a lovely day," but not, "Oh, you're doing great because you're here." It's weird. If you want to compliment someone on your inspiring, tell them why. You are so inspiring because I see how strong you are. I heard your story. I know what you've been through. That's why I think you're inspiring and you're setting an example. That's a normal way to compliment someone. Just saying you're so inspiring, I don't know what you mean. Another one similar to this is like, "Oh, you're so brave." Why am I so brave? For, like, again, for existing, for being here, for being independent, for what? Okay, so my opinion is that you can ask someone if, like, "Can I ask you a question about your disability, about why you're in a wheelchair?" But not everybody is agreeing on me with that. I think there are a lot of people who just want to live their lives. They're not in the mood to answer your question because you were just wondering. Maybe you should ask yourself, like, why are you wondering? Why is it that you have this urge to ask this person this question? People in a wheelchair are not always really keen on, being inspirational, or it really depends on where you are at. It's important to realize in the moment, like, why do I need to ask this person a question? Also, a thing that you should probably don't ask is like just approaching a person and say, "Hey, like, is this temporary or is this forever?" These are very personal things, and it really depends on how someone would approach me. At this point in my life, I am like more into educating people, like, okay, fine, I will tell you my story, but not everyone would think the same. So I think people just really have to be careful with that, because you can actually hurt people by just asking a stupid question. Well, maybe not stupid, but just asking for you. That's just, I was just wondering. Just wondering isn't enough. You have to think about the consequence as well. Like, what would it do to another person if you ask these questions? So that's what I wanted to add. Yeah, it's complicated, but I think that's why I'm making this video. Let me know what you guys think and leave a comment down below. Stay healthy and keep sharing. Bye!